Hey, greetings, friends. Jacque Howard here, and I'm with Dan Regan.
Hey,
Many of you may have known Dan from his other times on the Trenton 365 show, my other programs. He's a comedian working on being an author and a few other things. And today we're going to be doing our first in-person recording
yep.
of Doc and Jock, two friends talking sports. Now, before we get into all the details about us talking sports, there's a lot that's going to come out, maybe side jokes, inside jokes, different personalities and things, because we've known each other for a very long time. And we were even joking earlier that we knew each other when we didn't have his gray and white in our beards.
He's got a lot more gray and white. And by the way, real quick before we get started, I want to give a shout out to the books behind me that I will never read.
And that is because we're here at Hub 13 West Front Street. This is a co-making space. This is a civic engagement center. And this is an opportunity for folks to come in and meet with other folks, rent some space, have events, etc. Hub 13 West Front Street in historic downtown Trenton. Now, I want to say that earlier I had a chance to see for the first time Dan do some of his recording on TikTok. And he is going to blow your mind with this quick segment that he's done on TikTok. But make sure that you go over, follow on TikTok and Instagram.
Yep. Dan Regan Comedy on Instagram and TikTok. Underscore Dan underscore Regan underscore comedy.
Now,
and if you're asking yourself, am I too old to be on TikTok? You're right.
All right, so here's what we got to do before we get into all this, because people are gonna be like, oh, who are these two old dudes talking about sports, etc. I want you to talk about your comedy. And I want to say your comedy because just recently, someone who is internationally known and famous for lots of different things reposted one of your jokes.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk about who that person was and what was the joke?
That is one of my favorite all-time musicians from back in the, you're talking early 90s, Mr. Snoop Dogg. And I'm trying to think, what chick was it again? It was the one about, I don't even remember.
Oh, here we go. Oh my goodness.
This is what happens. We're live and I'm old. So,
and we go through these things all the time because Dan has been out front for talking about comedy, talking about intellectual property, and that, hey, you write a joke.
I remember now.
There we go. Why don't you go ahead and tell him while I look this up?
So what happened was I wrote a joke and another page took it and slapped their watermark on it and created a meme. And that meme went, I don't want to say viral, but that meme was shared a lot. So Snoop picked up that meme and posted it on his socials, on his Twitter, I think it was on his Instagram, I think Facebook. So somebody alerted me to it. Actually, I didn't even know. Somebody's like, hey, isn't this your joke? It was kind of cool to see one of the guys I always loved, saw him in movies and Soul Plane, remember that classic?
Yeah.
And it was cool to see somebody that I respected. I wasn't even really mad, and then I thought about it. I'm like, what am I going to do? That was pretty cool that somebody like him shared it. This was me 2 years ago. I probably would have a different attitude, but it comes with, I guess, putting yourself out there. That's what's going to happen. And it is a compliment. People are like, well, you should take it as a compliment. Yeah, I understand that, but it still would have been nice if Snoop gave me a shout out, though.
Well, I know that I tagged Snoop and then reshared it. So let me just see if I can follow it, find it on my side. But then, like, you've been talking about intellectual property for a very long time. And you've been talking about it from the standpoint of, hey, just giving credit. Not like you're saying, hey, you've got to send me a check, although check and stuff would be nice, but at least to give credit. And credit is as simple as leaving the hashtag or the at on the joke when you say it, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of, and I've over the years when I was really, rabid about joke theft, I learned over the years there's so many parallel thinking when it comes to jokes. And there's jokes that I've written that I thought that's the first time that was out there. And then I'll see like somebody else had something similar, not word for word. So that does happen. I understand that now. But when you have somebody that when it's a unique joke and the wording is in a certain way and someone just copies it word for word. That's what I'm talking about. It's like, come on, just if you're gonna do that, no problem. Just give me a shout out, like you said, throw the ad on there, give me some traffic. That's all. I'm not saying you have to take it down, just say, hey, thanks, Dan, or thanks whoever wrote it. That's all.
And that's part of the economy and the culture that I think that a lot of people are missing out. It's like, paying it forward, so to speak. If you got something from someone and you're giving it to someone else, don't make it seem like you're the person that came up with it. That's really not who you are. And it's actually being deceptive. And I think that going forward, intellectual property should be something that more people focus on and also pay attention to it so that they don't get things like this taken from them. I want to say this, and it was, I retweeted on December 30th, and it was Dan Regan on Twitter at social_mime. And he said specifically, not a bad day when Snoop Dogg shares your joke, even though nobody knows I wrote it. And the joke was, if you see someone over 40 out in public after 9 p.m., they 100% took a nap earlier in the day. And he's got the screenshot of him originally sending it. And I think that this was in September of 2021. And it's just getting around December 22. So Dan, kudos to you for that awesome joke. And folks, I encourage you to go over, find Social Mime on Twitter, and then Dan_Regan_comedy on TikTok and also on Instagram. And if you see me resharing his things via Trenton 365 or the work that I'm doing, tag him in it and reshare it. Tag him in it and reshare, because it's not me coming up with the creativity or the talent of writing jokes. It's me sharing
He'll make you think it's him coming up with it.
Totally not true.
And just to put a bow on what we're talking about, I guess people might be listening to this and saying, well, it's just jokes, come on, everybody's like, hey, you hear a joke, you repeat it. I understand that, but in this day and age where you can monetize your jokes and your writing. Let me put it to you another way. Let's say you own a restaurant. Just the example I always give people. Let's say you own a restaurant and I have a party and I had your restaurant cater my party. So I bring all the food out. A bunch of people loved it. They're like, oh my God, this is so good. Where'd you get it from? And I said, I made it. So now I just cost your restaurant potential customers, potential future business, because instead of just saying, hey, I got it from that restaurant down the street, I said I did it. That's kind of like what I'm saying here. It's taking money out of people's pockets, impossible business. That's all. So,
and I want to drill down on that a little bit, but I want to go back to the money portion of it after this statement, because I want you to talk about some of the entities that you have done work, have been paid by, who see your work and your talent, and why it's important to do that. Folks, this goes back more towards the culture, right? The culture and the understanding of like, hey, why have we as human beings gotten to this place where we think that it's okay to do things to other human beings that we absolutely wouldn't want done with us? I know that that's like the age-old question and everything, but if we think about how dirty things are and how many people litter and drop trash and don't pick up after their pets and those types of things, that's a learned behavior. And people are generally doing that because they just don't care about the circumstances or the situation, or they're just ignorant. Well, us coming together are going to talk about not only the entertainment and the fun things such as sports and things that we love so much, but we're also going to be talking about serious things that we as a society could address, can address, to make things better for all of us. Because in the end, all of us just want the same exact things, to have some good times, sleep, spend time with our loved ones, and things of that nature. And having all these other ancillary things come in, causing all kinds of disruptions and problems, is more difficult for all of us moving forward. So Dan and I are coming together, letting folks know that, yeah, we're from different backgrounds, but we've known each other forever. We're really good friends. We've, honored each other in our weddings, etc. Don't talk about that.
Weddings,
etc. But Dan, when we talk about the monetization, I'm going to drill down on that a little bit more, because something that you had said in the past was that if you're getting money from, like, say, Snickers, Mars, M&Ms, whoever, that's an opportunity for you to level up your business in another way. Because if someone says, oh, wow, he's done work with this company, well, I can do work with them as well. And I want you to talk specifically about Laffy Taffy and how that came about, how the relationship is going where it is, and then we're going to talk about some of the things that we're really here to talk about, that, and that's our sports teams.
Yeah, Life Taffy reached out to me 2 years ago, I believe on Instagram first, and they were doing a dad joke competition, and I was one of the comedians, writers that they reached out to maybe submit some jokes, and it's like a bracket style, NCAA tournament style. So I had to come up with some dad jokes, and I did, and I had a great time doing it with them. Had a lot of fun. Didn't win it, but I had a lot of fun. So they reached out to me again this past year, and they were doing it again, but they were doing it a little different. So they didn't want me to submit. I mean, I could, but they really wanted me more as like a spokesperson, ambassador, to kind of push the contest out to people. So I was more than happy to do it, and it was, I had a lot of fun with it again, and hopefully we could do something down the line. We'll see. It was both experiences were really great working with them. So.
I'm going to go back into the archives a little bit more since we're talking about this. I'm trying to give my homeboy some shine. Can you talk about
What shine you need?
Well, I used to have, my hair used to be like that, but I'm letting it out, letting the au naturel come out.
Take it off real quick.
All right. He calls me.
Now, what I'm going to tell him.
All right. Okay.
Tell me that doesn't look like your high school principal about to tell you you're in detention. Son, what have you been doing?
Joseph, I told you to stop running in the hall. Get down to detention.
First time I saw that, I was like, what are you doing? It was during COVID. And I said, you know what? The COVID got to him. I said, we got new variants that affect the brain.
I love it.
So,
it's crazy, man. I've had more guys make comments about my hair or the lack thereof than women. Oh, yeah. It's funny. Dudes are really vain. Dudes are really, really vain. You know how many times, so I got a background in fashion. Most folks know that. So this is like me. This is a design look, right? So the beard, so many times guys want to either offer to trim it or shave it or
clean it up.
And I'm always like, nah, man. Like, even when I go into the barbershops and stuff to talk to them, they just look at me like, bro, why are you even
Come on,
here?
sit down.
Please, we'll do it for free.
I gotta get mine cleaned up too, actually, because I get mine cleaned up too, like every couple of weeks. And I was supposed to do it this week, but we're going away next week for a couple of days. I said, let me, you got a plan ahead. I'm like, well, if I do it this week, it's gonna get a little like out of control by next week. So let me do it next week. So that's why mine looks like,
clean.
Yeah.
Clean.
I got whiskers going everywhere down here. It's like a rave on my chin.
So yes, ladies, we men do go through some of these things as well. But I'm just in a space where, hey, this is what you get.
Yeah.
This is it. All right, let's talk about sports. Because all right, Dan you're a true 4-for-4 New York, like an old school 4-for-4. Yeah. Can you explain to folks what that means?
4-for-4 is especially in New York, I'm Yankees, Knicks, Giants, Rangers, and I mean that could be the Jets, it could be the Nets, I guess now Brooklyn. But it's when all four of your major sports is the same city. So it could be Boston, it could be Boston or LA. So those are my diehard teams, and fortunate enough to see a couple of them win championships. Knicks I'm still waiting on. I was 2 years old last time they won, so yeah, so waiting on the Knicks. We'll see what happens. But yeah, so it's a fun time. Guys, we're recording today. Giants Eagles are playing this Saturday night in the playoffs, so it's gonna be a fun game.
Mm-hmm. Now, I like to say, so Dan's a traditional New York 4-for-4, meaning the four teams that he supports or is a fan of are the four original sports teams of New York. So that's the football Giants, the New York Yankees, the New York Rangers, and the New York Knicks. Right, those four teams. Now there are other teams in New York, like if you wanted to do football, you could say Jets. Basketball, you could say the Nets. Hockey, you could say the Islanders. What did I miss?
Yeah, well, yeah. Then it's technically New York. You got Buffalo Sabres up there and the Bills, but yeah, like you're talking like the city area. Like they would some people lump in the Devils, but I'm like that's Jersey. Even though the Giants are Jersey too, but we won't go into that. We don't have enough time to get into that. So.
And on this side, like I don't follow hockey. I tried for many years, but just not my thing. But in basketball, I'm a Philadelphia 76ers fan, baseball, New York Mets, and in football, Philadelphia Eagles. For folks like Dan who are shaking their head, like, how do you do that? Well, the first stadium I went to was Shea Stadium. My parents, my grandparents, they were Mets fans. So I'm a Mets fan. As far as the basketball goes, was always a Dr. J fan, even when he was with the Nets. I remember watching him on Channel 9, WOR.
You got to love
back in the
Dr.
day.
J. I don't care who you're a fan of. I can't hate on Dr. J. So
Exactly.
I can't.
And so when he came to Philly, as a child, we would go to a lot of the games. I was fortunate enough to attend the game where Darryl Dawkins broke the backboard against the San Antonio Spurs. I was actually at that game. And for the Eagles, I've always been an Eagles fan. We've got this rivalry with New York and Dallas, but our friendship is kind of like nice because we can talk about these different things. And when our teams aren't very good and when our teams are good, like this year, like Dan alluded to, this Saturday, the Eagles are playing the Giants in the divisional round of the playoffs. And I'm going to be straight up and say, I think that what the Giants have done over the last 18 months or so has been awesome. It appears to me that at quarterback, they've got someone who is, I don't want to say if they're going to put all their eggs in the basket with him and call him the franchise guy like a Phil Simms or something like that. But I think that for right now, he is very manageable. He's got them in the playoffs. He's doing a lot of different things, and he's doing it without a lot of key weapons in skill positions like wide receiver, tight end, etc. I think that their defense is just like any other defense. When it's aggressive and does well, it does well. When it's aggressive and doesn't do well, everybody thinks they stink. But I think that this game coming up on Saturday, I believe the Eagles will win. I believe they're more talented on both sides of the ball. But I would not and do not expect a blowout game. I expect a traditional NFC East, grind it out kind of thing where an opportunity of some new talent gets to show themselves. So at quarterback, both teams have a chance to set up some rising stars. Also on the coaching level as well. You got Dable and then you got Sirianni. I think that this is going to be an opportunity for a great NFC East traditional matchup and maybe something that will lead the rivalry for many years to come. I do predict that the Eagles will win now.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. As much as I don't like the Eagles, they're a great team, and it's gonna be a fun game. They got both sides of the ball. So obviously, my heart, I want the Giants to win, but if I have to pick someone, if I had money on it, I see the Eagles winning this game. Giants are gonna have to. Giants last week played probably the worst defense I've seen in the last 50 years in the Minnesota Vikings. Now they're going to play the best defense in the NFL. So it's going to be a big transition, and I'm sure they're aware of that. But I like where our team's going. If you would have told me before the season started we would be in this position playing the Eagles on Saturday, every Giant fan would sign up for it. I don't like, though, now I hear a lot of people saying, well, it's house money, it's gravy. I don't want to hear that. You're here, make a stand, let's make the most of it. I don't ever like that. Well, if they don't win, it's not a losing season. It was a huge step. But I'm still gonna be disappointed if they lose. But I think the coaching is finally good. Daniel Jones, it's so funny because before the season started, people were saying like they're just gonna let Jones go. We'll probably have to, get a free agent quarterback. Now Jones is probably the best option that's out there. No one's coming out of college. Jones is going to be your best option. So what I think they're going to do, and who am I? But I think they're probably going to throw 30, 35 mil a year at Jones, probably franchise Saquon, because you got a nice core there. They find the coaching, and I think that's all Jones needs or any player needs. It's the confidence in the coaching and the system that they have in place for him. It works. So it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be great. But at the end of the night, I think the Eagles are moving on to play the Niners because I do not see the Cowboys beating the Niners either. So that's going to be your NFC Championship.
One thing that Dan and I definitely agree upon is our dislike for the Dallas Cowboys. But we're not going to do any Dallas Cowboys bashing, at least not right now. But I will say that the Cowboys,
dedicate a whole show to
the Cowboys, I think that they're a team that is very good in many aspects, but I think that they're still in the process of trying to figure some things out. You often hear it in basketball that teams have to learn how to win. And I think that
I just got an alert. The kicker missed another extra point just now.
they're not even playing. Jokes, man. He's got jokes. So I think with the Cowboys, beating Tampa Bay with whatever space Tom Brady and the team was in, that's huge for them. I mean, it's their first playoff win in how many years?
Decision for Tom Brady to abandon his family to come back for this. Good decision. And I'm sorry, what was your question?
I'm going to leave that one alone. Leave the GOAT alone. He might be back.
I actually, no, seriously, I heard that the Jets are looking at him.
The Jets.
Yeah, that's what I heard. There's going to be tons of rumors like, Rodgers coming. Jets are probably in that position where they're going to probably grab a Rodgers or a Brady to kind of patch things right now because they're hurting.
I'd throw another player in there, and I could see David Carr going to the Jets.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about like free agents and stuff, I want to throw this one out to you as well. So the Giants have been decimated at wide receiver this year, and a couple of young guys kind of percolating up. No one really grabbing hold of that number one or even number two spot. Right. I think that you guys probably have a bunch of 2s and 3s right now, if that.
Well, yeah, Slayton, when the season started, Slayton was 3 or 4 on the depth chart.
And he's one now, right?
He's the one. Galladay, you don't know where you're going to get from Galladay. I mean, he's come up, the last couple of games, he came up nice, finally. But yeah, the Giants, the receivers that they have, what now, most of them aren't even on the starting roster when the season started. So, Tony was supposed to be their number one. He's gone. Shepard went down with that season-ending injury, so they were decimated at wide receivers. So to do what they did, I don't want to sound like a homer, but to do what they did and be where they're at, I mean that's a lot of that. It's on the team, it's on the coaching. It's just, that's just all around, just an organizational great effort on the organization. So I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't even know who are free agents in the offseason. I really haven't had a chance to look at some free agent wide receivers. Trying to do something though.
So one that pops up in my mind immediately, and the team that he's currently on is having all kind of trepidation. That is Arizona's D. Hopkins.
Yeah.
How fantastic would he look in a Giants uniform?
He would look gorgeous. And I don't use that word often when I'm talking about men. He would look gorgeous in a Giants uniform. So.
And would that be one of the Giants jerseys that you would possibly secure?
Maybe. It's been a while since I bought one, so I think the last one, it has been a while. The last Giants jersey I had, personalized jersey, is a fellow by the name of Shockey. So it's been a few years.
Jeremy Shockey.
So yeah, D. Hopkins would make me maybe go out and throw some buckets on a New Jersey. So for sure.
Awesome. So we touched on that. We touched on the Jets. We touched on some football. I also want to agree and say with you that if anyone told me at the beginning of the year the Eagles would have the best record and the number one seed in the NFC, I would absolutely take that. That we have found our franchise quarterback in Jalen Hurts. I would take that. We've got a good coach. We've got decent stuff happening on both sides of the field. And even more importantly to me is that as fans of the sport, the NFC East looks good. I mean.
And I don't know, what teams people are watching us root for, and this is going to sound like a total homer statement again. Football's better when the NFC East is competitive. I don't care who you root for. I don't care if you're a Commanders fan. If you like the Arizona Cardinals, it doesn't matter. Football's just better when the NFC East is what they are now. So it's just amazing. This was the first time. I don't know how many years where every team in the NFC East had a winning record. It was crazy. So yeah, obviously we're happy, but even if you're not, your team's in it, let's say you're an AFC fan, it's just football's just better. I think all around.
I agree with you on that, and I'm going to transition and talk about basketball because that's how I feel about basketball too. I think that the NBA is better when you have a lot going on in the East. such as like the New York region, when the Nets, the Sixers, the Nets, Knicks, Sixers, Celtics, when those teams are good and they're playing each other, it's like every game is a rivalry. Like you hear the players talk about the Garden was on fire tonight. I had to get my game up because I was coming to New York.
Yep.
They don't play in Philly, so I knew I had to come with a new kind of strategy. So what are your thoughts about like the NBA, where it is now? Let's just kind of focus on our division right now.
The Knicks are playing better. Last year they had a little bit of a hiccup from the year prior where they really just busted out with Thibodeau as the coach. So the Knicks are doing pretty good. They have some nice talent on that team. There's still that one big, like, I wanted Donovan Mitchell so bad in the offseason. I can't tell you how many times I talked to him about it. And then I see what Cleveland gave up for him, and everybody was saying, well, the Knicks, they're asking too much from the Knicks. I'm like, what do we have that's too much? RJ Barrett? I mean, Barrett's he's a very good player. I won't say great. He's a very good player. You're going to hold up. Donovan Mitchell's the type of player where he will bring other free agents to New York. He's a game changer. And you see what he's doing in Cleveland. And that really bothered me that they didn't pull the. I mean, Danny Ainge, was he holding the Knicks hostage? Sure, he was. But what kind of relevance have we been in since 2000? The last time we were in the finals against the Spurs and we got blown away. So that I wanted Donovan Mitchell so bad. Like that's the kind of player I think the Knicks are like one of those guys away from really being a serious threat in the East. Because right now they're eighth, seventh, eighth, maybe sixth seed, and then they're going to get bounced out in first or second round by Trey, who looks like he got some plugs finally. Trey Young, like I should be talking about. The kids in his early 20s, man, do something with that.
Oh, well, we'll leave the personal stuff alone, but I will go in this direction and say, at least for the Sixers, I'm happy with what the team is doing right now. The start of the season, I had some concerns. Always with Doc as the coach, there's always going to be that stuff in the back of your head, like, yeah, he's successful, but at what level can he get over the hump and all those things? But we haven't even gotten that far as a team. And I think that we, for whatever reason, whether it was the situation with Ben Simmons' time and injuries, all those things, there's been a bit of a setback. And I think that I want to say that the Sixers are kind of righting their ship a little bit. Harden seems to be, really locked in, and Embiid's definitely locked in. We've got some of the second team players who are stepping up, doing some things. So I think that the Sixers are in a good space right now, but there's a long way to go because you got some very talented teams at the top.
Yeah.
I mean, you can never count out Milwaukee and what they're doing.
Yeah, Boston.
And Boston looks like world beaters.
Yep.
And
they got the West. If you come out of these, you got to worry about the West.
Yeah, when you get a team like the Lakers led by LeBron and they're scratching even getting to the playoffs in the West, there's a lot that's going on. But I agree with you about Donovan Mitchell. Yeah, we talked a lot in the offseason. You were fired up about that. You thought that was really what would put the Knicks get them in that upper 3-4 teams in the conference. And shame it didn't work out that way, but at least for you. But he seems to be doing awesome.
Yeah, like big shock. Big shock he'd do well in the team he goes to. Kid's just a superstar, so the Knicks.
All right. All right, let's change now and go to baseball before we finish up. All right, so baseball, I'm a Mets fan. Dan's a Yankees fan. And, of course, the Yankees have had the most success in Major League Baseball as far as winning championships. And over this past year, we've talked a lot about, what the future free agency looks like. And you were very clear about Judge. Why don't you just share your thoughts about it?
I don't want to say I didn't want him because that wouldn't be accurate. But for what the Yankees need and what Judge ultimately got, we didn't. So basically, you signed the players that you had that didn't get you to the World Series last year. So what did we do to him? And I understand you got to take care of business. And they made him the captain, which I think that was a good move. We said it all along. Anybody who's watched the Yankees, even if you're not a Yankee fan, you watch Judge. He's, great guy on and off the field. So no problem. I don't have anything personally against him. It's just that the length of the contract, is it my money? No. But we need, we need another bat. We need another outfielder. We did get pitching, but we lost Tyone to the Cubs, and we picked up Rondon, which I think is an upgrade. So I think the Yankees and Mets arguably are the two best pitching staff starting rotations in baseball. If you look at because you look like the Mets, they have Verlander now, so he might be fired up. In New York, you got Scherzer. You did lose DeGrom, but DeGrom was hurt a lot too. So
yeah, let me jump in there about that on the Mets side. So for years, and I think that we're still trying to figure things out with who we are as an organization, with Steve Cohen as the ownership. I often had issues with our training staff. I felt that way too many players were getting hurt with the same exact injuries. How much of Jose Reyes' career do we lose because of hamstrings? The dude runs. Why should he have it? Let's just make sure that his hamstrings are good. Forget about all the upper body strength and all that other stuff. And I think that there was a lot of that over the years. I also think that that was the same thing with David Wright. I know that was more genetic, but I think that the training staff probably had something to do with that. And the fact that so many players in our system come in, go out, have a hamstring that becomes an extended hamstring that is now an extended amount of time off, or so-and-so had an oblique, but now it's this, and it's that. And I understand that injuries and things happen, but I also think that why does it tend to always happen the same injuries with the same organizations? I think that has a lot to do with training staff, training styles and techniques, et cetera. And I think that is where management has to say, hey, look, if I can't, the best ability is availability. If I got stars on the bench because the training staff ain't getting them ready, then that's a problem. And I think that where we are now as an organization is a lot of that has gotten changed and switched up. I'm excited to see Scherzer pitch, Verlander. I think the last time them two were together, I think they both had 17 plus wins. Not saying they can replicate that, but I mean, something like that would be good. As far as DeGrom goes, big fan of his, but he always just seemed to me like aloof. He knew he was the best, but he wasn't available a lot. And I just think that nothing against him. I think maybe him transitioning, moving on is probably best for both organizations. The Mets can kind of move on from, the previous ownership where he was the guy. Now they got two more people. They just was Senga they picked up. Him. So now they've got some different eyes and so forth on there. And I think that that's part of where the organization is going, and I'm looking forward to it. I want to make sure that we finish up and try to encourage people to check us out on our Facebook site and follow us on social media, et cetera. What do you anticipate us getting together, talking sports and chopping it up, being two old friends? What do you anticipate folks can expect from it?
Well, a little bit more of this, hopefully funnier. Sorry we didn't make it that funny for you. We're a lot of serious stuff tonight about the joke theft, and which we won't talk about again. And sports, we try to throw in a little humor with sports, but this is a big week for both of us personally with the football. So we kind of kept it a little serious today. So at least my part, I'm going to try to make it a little bit more funnier. And people might be watching future like, this ain't funny. I'm sorry, I've never been told I'm not funny before. So I'm sure that won't ever happen again either. Be happening on the way home.
On that note, I'm Jacque Howard, and this is
Dan Regan.
And our Facebook page is Doc and Jacque, Jacque, two friends talking about sports and a bit more. But make sure you find us and follow us on social media, Dan_Regan_comedy, also at Social Mime, MIME on Twitter. And for me, it's anything that's at Trenton, like the city, and the number's 365. I'm Jacque Howard, and for my friend Dan Regan, we appreciate you taking your time. Make sure you follow up with us. And remember, in the end, it's always about justice, peace, and humility.
Take care. Go Giants.